Hello and welcome to On the Bench. Our guests tonight are Joe White and Jonathan Bridge from G4 Acre Cycling Team. In the show, we'll be focusing on the G4 Acre team, Jim Gale's home workout and our new feature called Trading Places. But first, let's turn our attention to the guests. Welcome to the show. Welcome back, Joe, and welcome on the show, Jonathan. So, Joe, since we last saw you, quite a lot has changed with the team. Just talk me through that.
Yeah, obviously we've got new sponsors, I can tell by the title. We've got some new financial investors, we've got a lot of new equipment sponsors. Basically all changed, absolutely everything's changed. The sponsors, the riders, nothing's the same as it was.
Oh, well, we like to mix things up.
Yep.
So how has it impacted on the team as a whole?
Obviously we've had the capability now to take on a lot more riders.
Mm-hmm.
So we're up to 6 riders now, with some specific juniors and some youngsters who we're going to be able to bring on, and we've got a couple of experienced riders who are there to sort of advise and guide them as well.
And what's your role in the team?
I am the captain when we're on the road. I do a lot of the management and the administration as well. So my job is kind of looking after everybody and make sure everything's running smoothly.
So you're the boss man?
Yeah. nice to think so.
And Jonathan, how many have you got in your team now? How long have you guys been training together? What's the
There is now 6 of us now in our team. We haven't been training together as a team that long, but I'm really looking forward to racing as a team with all 6 of us. It's going to be a fantastic experience for this year.
Brilliant. And where did it all come about in terms of getting the team together? Did you know quite a few of them, or is it all just kind of come about?
Yeah, I know a few of the riders. I'd say about 60% of the riders I know. Originally it was Joe's idea to create this team, and yeah, I think it's been a great success so far.
Brilliant. So as a team then, you do quite a lot of events. We were talking before, you've got a few this week.
Yeah.
Has there got anything major that's coming up this summer for you?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the riders and their ages, there's lots of different things they can do. We've got Jonathan who's going to do the National Schools Championships. We've got some in university doing the University Championships. And then we've got things like the Amateur National Championships, which we're hoping to basically field an entire team on.
Brilliant. And you mentioned the financial investment. How much does that affect what you're able to do in terms of events and things, or is it mainly the equipment that you have?
The financial thing is the biggest problem. So having financial sponsors behind us makes the world of difference. It means paying for travel, paying for race entry fees. Those costs at least reduce, if not totally disappear. And for a lot of these guys, particularly the young ones, they may be relying on parental support. It's nice to know they don't have to do that. They've got everything around them ready to go.
Brilliant. And Jonathan, what does a typical week training with the guys look like? Do you train quite regularly together, or do you just catch up once a week and have a pint?
Well, our training is very different because we have team riders dotted all over. So during the week, our sort of local riders, so about 3 or 4 of our riders will all train together, and say the individual riders will usually just train by themselves or with other people in the region.
Brilliant. And we'll go through into the development side of the team as well, Joe, later on. But Jonathan, you're 16,
I'm 16.
and you're the baby of the group.
I am the baby. Yeah.
In terms of experience as well as your age. So what's the experience like, Joe, across the whole team?
We've got a big range. I mean, we've got a few riders who've maybe got 2-3 years experience, a few have about 5 years experience. And then we've got people like myself who's got quite a bit more, and we've got another senior rider as well who's got even more, and he's got national titles under his belt as well.
So massive variance.
Yeah, but
Brilliant.
having that involvement means that we can have a lot of advice and guidance for the younger riders.
Brilliant. The G4 team recently showcased their new team and sponsor, so let's find out more.
I'm Joe White. I'm one of the riders for the G4 Acre Racing Team. We're here today for our official team launch. We've got some of our sponsors here. We've brought all of our equipment, our new kit with us, and this is the official day when we're presenting everybody to the public.
My name is Clément. I'm the distributor of Spitfire. Today we're here to the sponsoring of G4 team. For us, it's the first time we're sponsoring a team with the clothing on a road bike, and we organize all the sponsoring of G4 this year from Spitfire Distribution, because for us it was important to be on board with a project of road racing come from Grimsby.
The new team, it's a totally different thing to what's been done before. In the past, our area's never had any junior development specifically, so this team is geared entirely towards developing young riders, getting them through, getting them into racing, moving them up through the ranks of racing. We've already got people who are national and regional champions, and it's a case of developing them and keep pushing them further. This is the new kit for the G4 Acre Racing team. It is designed in France by G4, which is the company owned by ex-professional cyclist Chef Wallacat. Wicking sweat away. On the back you can see we've got a meshy sort of fabric which makes sweat much easier to wick away. Everything on this is fantastic, down to even just the zip, which is, you know, a work of art in itself. We can wear this in road racing. We also have a full skin suit, which is much more aerodynamic material, really slippery, makes every aerodynamic benefit we can. And we've worn that already, and it feels so quick just wearing it. It's fantastic. This is the new Ratio bike for 2015. It features a totally new shape frame. It's much more squared off than the old one. It's more aerodynamic. It features a lot of extra components which weren't seen on the previous model. For example, the new Acre hand-built wheels. These are built by hand in Lincolnshire by a very highly trained wheel builder, rather than in China by some robots. This just means you get really, really good quality wheels that will last a hell of a lot longer. The gearing on this now is all electronic. Instead of having levers, you now have buttons, which will simply change the gears electronically, which make a fantastic noise, as you can hear. Down here, we also have a power meter on the crank. This will tell you exactly how much wattage you're putting out at any time, so you can gauge your efforts, you know exactly how much power you're using. Further back here, we have the new saddle from Pro Logo, made in Italy. This features very, very tiny suction cups, and these are taken from Formula One technology. There's a few Formula One teams now who use them in their seats to stop them from moving around. Equally, it does the same thing for me. I can shift myself right to the very front of the saddle in a race, get as much power down as I can, and I will never ever fall off. And that is the 2015 Ratio bike that I'll be using.
That looks really interesting, actually, Joe. You've got some snazzy new clothing, which you're wearing tonight, so just talk me through that.
Obviously, this is the casual gear. We've got some hoodies and everything as well. And we've got a good example here, as you saw in the VT. This is our new racing kit. British Racing Green, quite apt. However, we are sponsored by a French company, so they've had their own little take on it.
Yeah.
It is fantastic. We've worn it a few times. We absolutely love it.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. So, Jonathan, we were talking about the development side of the team as well. How different is it for you, going from being just 2 of you to being 6?
It's been absolutely fantastic. I mean, from going from 2 to 6 is a massive jump, and you know, training and everything, it's just completely different. It's been a massive learning curve. You know, practicing lead-out trains, you know, race scenarios. It's been absolutely incredible. So, I'm really enjoying it.
Good. And Joe, obviously it's not been that long since we last saw you, and already so much has changed. Yep. What's your future plans for the team?
We want to keep going. I mean, we've got some good development going on now. Just after having the launch, we're having people contact us already saying, have you got spots for the rest of this year? Have you got spots for next year? How do we go about qualifying to get on the team? So we've got, you know, people saying, oh, my son's going to be coming into junior cycling. I want him to join your team. I know you're going to help him, blah, blah, blah. So we've already got that presence out there.
Yeah, that's great. Is that locally, or is it more on a national scale?
It's definitely regionally. We've had inquiries from sort of Nottinghamshire, Yorkshire and places as well. So obviously we do race a lot in these regions as well. But I can see us obviously getting bigger and bigger and bigger at the moment.
Great. Well, hopefully that'll be a massive thing, and next time there'll be 13 of you on this sofa. So
yeah, that's it. We'll take the whole studio.
Yeah, great. We'll be talking a little bit more later as well to our guests, but taking into our break is our weekly feature, Jim Gale's Home Workouts. We'll see you soon.
Hi, welcome to Jim Gale's Home Workouts. Over this 4th series, we're going to go through a number of workouts to hit different aspects of fitness and also to hit different areas of your body. Before we get started, we need to go through some health and safety. First of all, always warm up at the start and always cool down at the end. Also, I'll be asking you to use some equipment at home, so don't use anything too heavy and never push yourselves too hard. Okay, let's get started. Today I'm going to show you how to train legs. We're going to start with a static squat, going as low as you can and extending all the way up at the top. Keep your chin up and just keep breathing. Make sure the back's straight, a nice smooth movement. You don't want to go too fast, not too slow. The next one is a side lunge. Down to one side, straight back up, little pause at the top there, and then down. Switching sides every time. Your arms can stay out in front of you, give you some balance, a little bit of stability. And again, if it gets too hard, just slow it down a little bit. Last one, you're going to take your dumbbells from the top, leaning down, keep the legs straight, and back up. Make sure you can feel it in your hamstrings, down the back of your legs. And if you don't have dumbbells, just use a heavy can, nothing too heavy, and don't push yourself too hard. Make sure you breathe in. And that's legs.
Welcome back to On the Bench. In this part of the show, we'll be taking a look at our new weekly feature called Trading Places and chatting about doping in sports. And it's quite apt actually to talk to you guys about cycling, sports and doping and things, so we'll talk a little bit later, we've got more time. Jonathan, we've talked quite a lot about the team. As an individual, what are your goals for this season?
My goal for this year is just to basically learn as much as possible. This year I want to target well not target, but I want to learn how the National Junior Series works and really get the experience in, so I can really push for that next year and go in with a specific aim.
So you have obviously gained a lot of experience through that, and then you'll be in a better position for next season.
Yes, I will, certainly will.
Brilliant. And Joe, what about you?
I've got a couple minor towards the end of the season. I want to make sure I have a good early season and a long build-up. I've got the Tour of Cambridgeshire in August or July, and I've got the TLI National Road Race Championship, so both longer events, but that's what I'm building towards.
Brilliant. And anyone else on the team that have got big things coming up this year?
Obviously, a lot of them we're going to field a whole team to. At the moment, we've got Ash, one of our younger riders. He's been selected for Team GB to represent his university to go to the first Gallipoli Games.
Wow.
So in a month or so he's going to be flying out to Turkey for a week, and he's going to be racing over there representing obviously his university and us.
That's great, and hopefully he'll be wearing your jerseys all the way so you can really show off. So Jonathan, what kind of preparation goes into a major competition like that?
A major competition takes a lot. Although you need to get your training in, you also need to train mentally as well. I find that on the day of the event, it does mess with your mind, so you need to sort of control your nerves. And a personal preference of mine is to imagine myself on the podium, and that strives for me to actually try and do as best as I can.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's a really good way to do it. There's no point you imagine yourself at the sidelines. That's a good way
confidence,
to do it. Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly. And you're his captain. You shouldn't laugh at him. You should push him.
I encourage that, definitely.
Yeah, you're first, he's second.
Yeah, that's it,
probably. And Joe, what kind of impact, if you don't train properly or you don't warm up properly for the race, what kind of impact can that have?
It can have a big impact. Obviously, it depends on the sort of the race, but a lot of what I do and what some of the other riders do, particularly sort of the midweek races, short, sharp criteriums. So it's incredibly fast from the start, gets faster, and then gets faster at the end. So that's one where you've really got to be warmed up. You've got to do a good, solid warm-up before you actually get on the start line. So you'll get on your rollers or your turbo trainer, just a stationary sort of trainer with the bike. You'll do something very specific, gradually warm your body up and then do a couple of intense efforts, and then cool back down a bit, and that will get you ready so that when you're on the start line, your legs are fresh and ready to go.
I'm worn out already. I don't know that you warm up. God. Okay, so Jonathan, we've talked before about race weight and normal weight.
Yeah.
I prefer normal weight. What kind of things do you have to do to get ready for a race in terms of weight-wise, that kind of physical preparation?
I mean, Usually it depends what race you're doing. Usually, say if you're racing a criterium, you don't have to be like the skinniest, you know, usually the skinniest race up the hills, usually it's the winner. And but weight is very important still, because you need that bit of sort of weight to sort of push you around, the muscle in there to sort of get that extra bit.
Brilliant. Okay, brilliant. Well, hopefully we'll talk a little bit later about the doping, like I said.
Yep.
It's now time to turn our attention to our new weekly feature, which involves two competitors from similar sports swapping places, like we got the name from. This week we have Eric Galbraith from the Hull Stingrays training with Lawrence Pierce from the Hull lacrosse team. Let's take a look how they got on.
So, Eric, what are you doing tonight?
I'll be attempting to play lacrosse tonight.
And I like the word attempting to play there. But is it true that you used to play back home in Canada?
Yeah, I played a little bit. Nothing to this extent back home. It was more of just passing the ball back and forth between friends. So we'll see after we get some technical drills out here how I do.
So it was more just like a social game back home then?
Yeah, I wasn't very structured at all.
So what are you hoping to gain from tonight's experience?
I hope just an overall view of what it takes, what an everyday practice is for these guys. Maybe a little bit of passing, stick, or dribbling as they call it, maybe, and a little bit of shooting. So.
Hi Eric, I'm Lawrence. Welcome to Hull Lacrosse Club. As far as I understand it, you've had some experience with lacrosse before. It's going to get physical. You'll need that. Start off passing, shooting, catching. We'll get kitted up, and then we'll join the team. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
Great.
Use your body to protect the ball from me. So say if I'm coming to check you and you're cradling, while you're cradling, I can hit your gloves, I can hit your stick, but the ball's not going to pop out.
Yeah.
If you're not cradling, it's much easier for me to just go bang
Like that.
or to smack it there and the ball will come out. Good. And then you're aiming for here, yeah? Good. So you feel it's like a snap of the wrist.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh, it's a lot harder than it looks on television. I think I'm doing all right. I think I'm getting the passing down. Couple balls hit the turf, but overall I think I'm doing all right. We'll see how this next drill goes.
I have to say I'm extremely impressed with Eric so far. He's really embracing the challenge of a new sport. I mean, most people come to this really struggling. In fact, he's a strapping great lad, natural athlete, it's not hurting him. Everything's there, he's got all these skills from ice hockey. I'm panicking a bit that I'm about to get cut from this team, and definitely, in fact, panicking. I'd better get back to it before I get dropped.
Well, that's trading places over for this week. Lawrence, how was it?
I think Eric did really well, really impressed. Came at it with some gusto. Has me pretty worried about next week. No, it's good, really well done.
Are you excited about going next week?
I'm terrified, but excited at the same time. I think it's going to be great.
And Eric, was that fun?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You know, Lawrence was great out there. He showed me the little knickknacks through the game, and yeah, it turned out all right. I'm excited to have him back over on the ice and see how he does.
And should he be scared?
No, I don't think he should be scared. He's an athlete, so I'm sure he'll do fine.
So bring your A game, Lawrence. Well, viewers, join in next week when Lawrence joins Eric on the ice.
An interesting change of pace there for Eric. Tune in next week to see Lawrence on the ice with the Hull Stingrays. But next on the show, we want to talk about doping in sport and in particular in cycling. Jonathan, what impact does that have on your game?
Doping has a massive part, and especially cycling. Cycling is one of the world's toughest sports, or actually maybe the toughest sport. And riders need all the help they can get, but unfortunately they turn to doping. And I forgot what I've said. Damn it.
The media coverage plays quite a big part in that as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, media coverage. Cycling is very well publicised. You'll also find that sports like football and occasionally rugby and sometimes tennis, they try to hide the fact that doping is actually present. But in cycling, because cycling is very popular with doping, they always try to publicise it the most.
What impact do you think that has on their reputation, Joe, and the reputation of the sport?
It's had a huge impact on the sport. Obviously, we've had the big Lance Armstrong affair, and you look at some of the big World Tour teams, some of their major sponsors who are plugging in millions and millions of pounds, people like Rabobank, a big Dutch bank, as soon as the Lance Armstrong thing came about, even though he wasn't linked to their team in any way, they pulled out millions of pounds. They didn't want anything to do with the sport anymore. We are fortunate enough now to have more sponsors coming into the sport, but obviously it's almost seen as like it's got a tarnished image. But it's just the way that cycling as a whole likes to deal with things. We don't necessarily want to cover up too much. Obviously we've had a big report done now about the covering up of doping, and we're trying to get rid of that, because the more blatant we can make it, the better. I mean, the doctors who are helping a lot of these guys dope, they're, they get arrested in some cases and they confess to helping out footballers and everything else. But it's only the cyclists who are actually being named.
Yeah, it's a really difficult one. Jonathan, you mentioned there about the cycling being such a difficult sport.
Yeah.
You guys do it. You managed to do it. Why do you think some of your competitors feel the need to do doping or take extra things to help them?
Yeah, I mean, when you dope, it gives you such a boost. You know, you might have heard of the Lance Armstrong story. You know, he doped massively. I mean, you could just tell by the way he wasn't made for hills, and he was beating all the other riders up the hills. And it has such a massive boost on you. You can just easily tell that riders are on it.
It's a really difficult one as well, isn't it? Because it's knowing, how to kind of prove yourselves in the sport, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a case of proving yourself. You've got to remember these guys are professionals when we're talking about the top level. They're talking massive contracts of hundreds of thousands of pounds for the really good guys, if not millions. And if you're coming to the end of your contract and you're not getting any results, you could be unemployed next year. And that's the reality that they've been faced with, because there's not been any stability in the contracts. And that's another thing that they're hoping to address now, is reforming the sport in some way so that there can be more support.
Great. Well, hopefully this report will come to fruition and we'll get somewhere with the sport. Fingers crossed we've got some good news next time you're on the show. Well, that's all we have time for this week. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to catch us every week here on Estuary TV at 8 p.m. And if you want to know the latest football news, you can catch both Toms on the Bench Extra on Saturday mornings. Big thank you to Joe White and Jonathan Bridge, and thanks to you at home for watching. See you next week.